Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Building Great Sales Teams podcast. I've got an exciting one for us today. I've got Adam Kremer. He's the CEO of Royalty Renewables. He's an expert in door-to-door sales, my favorite kind of sales. He's been automating sales processes and innovating his industry. Adam just recently went from 0 to 15K weeks in his business. Adam, welcome to the show, brother.
I appreciate the welcome.
Absolutely, man. I remember when we first met at the IIC Super Bowl party in Vegas. Thought we were big ballers in the penthouse at the top there at that event. We were having a good time and we got into a conversation. And I think you were very, very early on in your journey. You were just starting your company that you have now. And I vaguely remember you asking me for some advice, but I also remember that you were a sharp kid and I was like, this kid's going places. And now here you are.
Yeah, absolutely. That event was awesome. And when I went there, that was weeks before even starting the company, and you had only had 5 episodes of your podcast out, because that was, that's what really jump-started me into building the sales team for our organization, was listening to the first 5 episodes that you put out, which I've listened to. I don't know how many times I've listened to them. They're phenomenal episodes. I
appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. It's rare that I point people back to episode 1 and 2, but when I do, it's typically I'm pre-qualifying them as a client and I'm letting them know, hey, this is what I actually do. I know you see all the sexy stuff on screen and everything and me interviewing all these cool people, but this is what I actually do, which is build sales programs. So I always point them back to those first 2 episodes, because if you're not in the business, you know what I mean, or you don't have experience building sales teams, they're just not exciting episodes. You know what I mean? It's very structural, very tactical, and but it is the foundation for what we do here. Okay, so you recently posted about the paradigm between the unhappy person on the other side of the door and yourself as the one knocking the door. And so I thought it was a really good post, and I wanted to see if you could kind of walk us through your perspective on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my perspective is that there's no such thing as a negative reaction from them in their eyes. So when they're coming to the door and they're upset with you, really in any situation, if people are what is perceived as negative for you, more often than not, they feel as though they're doing good for themselves, their family, a bigger and greater cause. When they come to the door and they're mad, and they're unhappy that you're there, they're mad because they don't want their time wasted. They may think that this is a scam. They may have been burned in the past. They believe that they're protecting themselves, their wallets, their family. So when they're coming to the door and they're upset with you, it's a lot easier to realize that they're coming out with good intent. Even though you may be on the blunt end of that, they are doing their best to be good and provide good for themselves and their family.
That's the hardest part in door-to-door sales. And I would always tell my guys, it's like you gotta maintain that it's not, don't take it personal. Because it's exactly what you just said. They think that they're doing what's best for their family. You're doing what's best for yours, which is going out, hustling, providing, you know what I'm saying? So you guys are both right, and that's how I would end a lot of arguments, honestly, between the customer and the sales rep, or the sales rep and sales reps. Like, you guys are both right in this situation, You're doing what you think is best for you. You're doing what you think is best for you, right? And so, all right, so I'm going to make a statement here. It's controversial. And I'm sure you hear it all the time. Adam, door-to-door is dead. Why would you still be knocking doors? You and I hear this all the time, and I'm being facetious, obviously. But I can't tell you how many times over the last 13 years that I've operated a door-to-door sales company or consulted for door-to-door sales clients, and I've heard this just term. So that being said, one of the things you put in your input form is the new wave of tech in door-to-door. Those 2 things are kind of counterproductive, aren't they? Walk me through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the old mentality of door-to-door is, I wouldn't say that it's dying or that it is dead, but I would say that it's declining. I don't know how many doors that I've knocked that you look in the window and there's people laying on the ground. They don't want to come out. You see them inside. They're not willing to even answer the door at this point. And that's, I mean, it's only becoming more common. There's less and less people that are willing to answer the door because they know what's standing on the other side. So with that, I mean, there's so many tools that we have at our disposal when it comes to tech. I mean, even as basic as, I mean, you've seen guys out on segways, I'm sure, if you've seen that before, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, even as simple as, I mean, just getting to doors faster. I mean, you're taking out the time in between going to the doors, but on top of that, you have a lot of resources. I mean, even just putting them into your CRM these days, you can start running follow-up campaigns of text, emails, putting them into Facebook audiences. I mean, you can really get in front of customers in 6 different ways as long as you get their information just simply by knocking the door. So there's a lot of things you can kind of interweave and make sure that you're getting in front of customers at the place that they like, because door-to-door may not be their cup of tea.
No, I couldn't agree more. The problem with door-to-door is it keeps working.
Yeah. That's true.
That's the problem with it. And it's not declining for the reason that most people think, because it's an archaic sales medium. It's declining because of COVID, and there's all kinds of industries that declined because of COVID, and people stop answering their doors because they know that, hey, if my friend comes over or a neighbor comes over, they typically don't knock on the door. They text me first, or they message me in the neighborhood app. You know what I'm saying? So there's, like you said, they know why their door is being knocked on, and it's to be sold something. And most of the time, people don't think they want to be sold anything, but at the end of the sales transaction, they get that dopamine hit. They just purchased something. They're super happy. They solved a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And now they get to go be the hero with their family. Hey, we're finally getting solar, or, I reduced our energy rates, or I locked it in for the next 2 or 3 years, whatever the case is. And at the end of it, they're happy anyways. And that's the whole deal. It's like, you think I have a $700,000 company or a multi-million-dollar company because it doesn't work? Like, how does that work? You think I'm that bad of a business person? Okay, so then the next controversial statement, or the thing that I hear all the time, and maybe you can help me with this, is solar is a scam. So what's the new wave of solar?
Yeah, so the new wave of solar, at least in the industry that I'm in, which is community solar, that's what I call the new wave of solar, just simply because we have access to a lot larger market. I wouldn't say any solar's a scam, unless you get your news from Facebook. Then maybe maybe solar's a scam at that point. But yeah, I consider it the new wave because we have access to, I mean, 65% of the market that rooftop solar can't help, because we don't have to worry about roof pitch. We don't have to worry about credit. You can be renting your house. It really doesn't matter. We have access to a huge customer base compared to what the rooftop solar options have.
Man, and that brings up a good point in general. And I talk about this a lot on the show. It's like, man, what is your sales cycle? What is your product? How long does it take to get it installed? Like, everybody got into solar because these massive commissions, right? And then some of us got out of it because we didn't think that there was integrity in the industry. And so, when you look at those factors, but then when you, like you said, the market itself, like, how many people have I talked to and they're not a homeowner, or they don't have a single family home? And it just eliminates so many of them right away. And that's why the commission's so high in solar, because the market is smaller, right? And the sales cycle is longer, and it takes, $50,000 to $60,000 in available credit in order to get that customer. So when you look at scaling a company, and the companies that I see that are really scaling right now, it's not just, these numbers they throw up because they're including the entire solar system in their numbers. It really is the lower margin, lower or higher volume products that they're scaling, because they're easy to sell, right? You can teach someone to sell it in a couple of days, versus solar is more like a 2-week closer sales training process. And they can scale quickly, and they can scale with quality because it is such a simple product to sell. I've actually composed a script on shared solar, and I was just like, man, this reminds me of the cable days. You know what I'm saying? When sales were super easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's important that we look at, and this is when I did the compensation station episode, we really looked at sales cycles, and the shorter they are, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you may be able to make 10K, or sorry, that's exaggerating, 5K in one sale in solar, but the time that it takes to put together that sale, the sales cycle, how long it takes to get installed, and then all the issues and stresses that happen in between. And I know personally, because I operated a solar sales org for 2 years, it kind of makes it not worth it, but you have to really hire the right people versus I feel like in your industry, you can hire a little less quality, a little more volume, you know what I'm saying, and get a really good effect from that. And then affect a lot of people in a positive way, taking them from, $500-$600 a week in income to $1,000-$1,500 a week.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's our goal with every rep as they come in within the first 3 weeks is to be having checks similar to that. And yeah, I would say you're definitely right. I don't know if it's on the quality side. I would say when you're looking at that longer sales cycle, you're looking at somebody that has that delayed gratification. They
Right.
need to be able to have that built in, and to find people like that is a lot harder. I mean, because you have that 2 week sales cycle, but then you have the install time, and then you have to get them paid
Mhm.
after the install. So you're really waiting on some checks. I know there's guys that do a prepayment once it's actually signed,
Right.
but to actually get the full lump sum of what your commission is going to look like does take a while. So
Mhm.
to get people in that are not only good at sales, willing to go out, grind and hustle on the doors, get told no, have doors slammed, and then also wait for that check on top of it, you're looking at a little bit harder of a recruiting process than it would be to do just the community solar side of it, where it's 1 to 3 week turnaround on pay.
Yeah, not to mention they've got to make a living while they're training, right?
Exactly.
They've got to make a living while they're setting appointments, and the M1 may come in, or you may have a setup to where they get paid pretty quickly, but at the same time, it's like it's not enough for their cost of living or whatever the case is, and that's where they turn and burn a lot. They
Hmm.
realize, oh shoot, I'm not getting a check for 3 weeks, and even that check's going to be, 500, $600 because I only set so many appointments because I was learning, and so that whole system is very difficult to navigate on the front end. How do you guys do that? Because obviously there's still some delayed gratification. They're not literally getting paid their first week, or do y'all have like a training pay set up?
Yeah, so we do have a training pay set up for them. So I mean, they get paid for the time that they come out to the doors with us, and
Hmm.
within their first week, I mean, they're doing anywhere between 750 and 1500 their first week of actually knocking on them on their own, after
Hmm.
we do that jump started training, and that's coming in within 2 weeks is when that's
Hmm.
hitting their bank. And then as soon as they hit their first 5 deals, we send them that training pay immediately. So that can be within 4 or 5 days of them actually starting with us before they get that training pay for coming out, and then another
Hmm.
2 weeks, and you're getting anywhere from 750 to 1500.
Yeah, and that's like a normal job that you go into,
Exactly.
W, hourly, whatever the case is. But you guys, I would imagine, because I know the sales cycle in the shared solar industry, or I'm sorry, the commission cycle, and so sometimes you're coming out of pocket on that just to make sure that you retain those reps.
Yeah, on the training pay we come out of pocket, but we get paid weekly on our actual community solar subscriptions.
Right.
At least on this project we are currently. Sometimes it is
Mhm.
bi-weekly, but yeah, on once they actually get their first check that was um was the sales they made, that's not out of
Mhm.
pocket for us. That's sent directly to them after we got paid.
That's one thing I noticed about the industry too in shared solar is, you may cap out on the people that you can sign up, and you may have to jump to another how do you say it, developer, right?
Yep.
And so you've got to have like a Rolodex. If you're the dealer or the sales, or you got to have a Rolodex of people that you're able to sell their products through, because you may max out on one farm versus another. And am I right in that line?
Oh yeah, yeah. You need to have like I always call us a brokerage.
Okay.
More than anything, is we just have a portfolio of developers, and we make sure that our customers are saving the most, that they know what options are out there, and all that sort of good stuff. Because yeah, that is a huge issue in the industry.
Mhm.
On top of that, not having clear timelines on when that's going to be filling up, because it can be a drop of a hat, and all of a sudden that thing's gone.
Yeah, because guys like you are coming in and selling all the capacity.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, you don't know how many teams are on it either, because they just
Right.
want their fields filled.
Yeah.
That's all that they really care about. So makes it
No,
makes it
that
a
makes
little tough,
sense.
but
Yeah, and if you can find relationships where they can kind of give you that runway, then you can actually build a business based on that versus not knowing when the runway is just going to drop off into a waterfall, you know?
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to kind of pivot back to something you wrote the other day. And this is probably easily my favorite thing you posted. I literally commented that before we got on the show. And you said, they say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I didn't do that. I fell in love with what I did instead. I mean, I felt that one in my bones. And let me tell you why. Because I was not 12 years old dreaming dreaming in the middle of the night and then waking up and saying, I want to be a door-to-door salesperson, or I want to be a door-to-door sales org owner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And exactly what you described right there happened for me. It's like I got this opportunity to owner finance a dealership for AT&T. I took advantage of the opportunity, and as I was building the business, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with systems and processes. I fell in love with sales. I fell in love with sales training. I fell in love with watching guys go from, maybe 20, 30 grand a year in income to 60, 70 and being that stepping stone for them for the next phase of their life. I fell in love with all of those things. And so can you kind of walk us through how you came to that epiphany, I would call it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, out of high school, it was within a week I was out in the oil field. I mean, that's how I saw my life, as I was going to go be an electrician and be in the grimy oil field, -40. Since then, of course, I hopped into door-to-door sales, and I had no idea. I mean, even like you said, at 12 years old, I would have never guessed I was doing door-to-door sales. But getting thrown into it and seeing the progression that you can have yourself in it, I mean, the maturity that it got me, the communication skills it got me, the commission checks that it was getting me was insane. But it's even cooler when you can go out and literally give people that exact same opportunity, except take the experience that you had in the beginning, figure out all the holes that were in that experience on what held you back, what was the problems with it, what were the issues, and then fill every single one of those gaps and just make it the easiest process for these guys when they come in. So that's been what I've fallen in love with, is just making it as easy as possible for every single sales rep to go from 0 to 6 figures and within their first year of actually starting in sales, and watching that progression of who they become within the first month, 2 months. They're a completely different person, honestly. Once they get to like month 3 or 4, it's insane to watch these guys.
No, and it can be a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because now they're making this money that magnifies who they are, right?
True.
And so it shows you very fast who are the ones you should keep investing in and who are the ones that, hey, maybe you should go look for an opportunity somewhere else. This may not be for you, right? No, I love what you're saying though. Like you went through that whole experience and you kept kept the good and got rid of the bad, right? And so we developed a concept. I want to say it was like 2016 probably, called the sales rep experience, the SRE. And so what we did was we said, okay, we want to audit the sales rep experience from the time that they click apply to the time that they get promoted to manager, regional manager, whatever the case was. We wanted to make sure that that was, like you said, as fluid and as pleasant as possible. And there wasn't a lot of roadblocks if they put in the work ethic, And so once we started auditing that, so when I think about like the history of our company in 2014 hitting 110 sales reps, it was very body count equals bank account, volume based. Didn't really matter who came in the door. We'd train them to sell. They'd go out and sell. We'd all make a bunch of money, right? Versus we kind of went through that cycle. And then as the years went on, we started focusing on the individuals more and pouring into them more individually. And then like you were alluding to, the sales rep experience. So if you can actually put as an owner, right? This is no longer, when Adam went through it, this is how it was and I want to fix it. It's now constantly putting yourself through your sales rep experience and then auditing it, modifying it, and making it better and better, just like you said. I think that's massive. I think it's a massive takeaway for everybody listening, is to remind, hey, you were once that sales rep. You need to put yourself through that experience, whether it's mentally or physically, right? Again, and see and remind yourself what that was like, and make sure that you're making it as advantageous, profitable, and good for culture as possible.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
That's huge.
Yeah, another thing to add on top of that is anytime that you have guys that are coming in that have past sales experience, especially if it's door-to-door experience, is figure out what their situation was previous, because obviously it kept them around long enough to be knocking doors with it, but it didn't keep them. So
Right.
what's the reason that they're leaving to come to your company? What are they looking for, and what did that company lack? And it's not just them that's going to have those same feelings. So if you realize that you're lacking in that area too, it's more than likely that you're going to start
Yeah.
losing reps for that exact same reason, whether they'll admit it to you or not when they're leaving.
Mhm.
So when you get those new guys that have that experience, definitely be asking those questions and make sure that you're filling those holes, even if you didn't know that you had them.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And then there's the flip side of it, and then you realize it was them, not the other company.
Yeah, that too.
I got to play devil's advocate a little bit here, because I would say like 7 times out of 10 it's them and not the other company. And 3 times out of 10 you get a good one, you get a good egg.
Mhm.
All right. So I'm sure our listeners that are early in their careers or their businesses would love to know, how did you go from 0 to 15K? What were the pivot points and key things, key takeaways that you realize, hey, that's not only going to take me from 0 to 15K, it's going to take me from 15K to 20K, which is $1 million a year, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you realize that you're only 4,500 a week away from trending to $1 million, 7-figure year. That's got to be getting exciting for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely exciting. We did that in 2 months, starting from square one. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, that was from, everything. First off, when it comes to building a business, you don't lose the knowledge, and that it sticks with you forever. As long as you're building businesses, it's going to transfer right into the next one. And the reason that we got that jump start is because I'd already been able to experiment in Colorado. So that was just transitioning over to Minnesota. And what I did wrong, I think, is a better explanation of what I did right. When I first started the business, after our first conversation, my thought was, okay, in business, much like fishing, you have the option to, you can throw out 6 different lines. In fishing, you can only throw out 2, but in business, I can throw out 8 different lines and see what ends up working. But when you do that and you're splitting your time to 8 different things, there's 8-figure solar companies that are doing cold calling. There's 8-figure solar companies that are doing door knocking. In every single channel that you go down, you're going to find an 8-figure company that focuses just on that.
Yeah.
So what I did at the beginning is I decided to build 8 businesses within one business, which was ridiculous. I didn't go all in on any of them because I didn't have that time in order to do it. So figuring out what one I wanted to stick to, what one was actually working for me, and really hammering down on what that exact thing looks like, and then tracking the metrics as much as humanly possible as we go through it. That was the most crucial thing when we hopped into the Minnesota market, is knowing that door knocking is the number one thing that's been bringing in the revenue. We're going to hammer down on that, figure out exactly how we're going to be doing this as effectively as possible, what the metrics are on that, and then we can dabble in some other stuff, just experimental, but the 80% of our time is going to what's bringing in the majority of the money.
I couldn't agree more. It's one of the hardest things to do, especially when you have a sales rep come in at an entry level. The first thing they're going to do is ask, okay, can I sell this way, that way, this way? It's like, no, go to another company if you want to sell 7 different ways. You're going to learn this way. You're going to get good at it. You're going to train other people how to do it. And then you're going to make 6 figures. That's how this works. And if you do that, if you execute on that, then you'll be in good shape. And then we can start talking about the other mediums that you want to use, whether it be PPC, whether it be organic social media, or whatever the case is, just general web advertising. And so, but I think the key thing in that is assigning a person to it. And that's all that they do. Just like you did when you first started out, and your experience was in door knocking. So you decided to double down on that avenue. And it's a low barrier of entry, right? You need to be able to get your own contracts and everything and run the actual business side, payroll, accounting, all that good stuff, recruiting, marketing. But at the same time, if all you do is go out and knock doors every day, you by yourself can probably put together a $300,000, $400,000 business just by yourself. That's the beautiful thing about it, is the low barrier of entry. But like you mentioned, as you evolve, you're definitely going to want to assign some people to capture those other sales mediums, essentially. All right, brother. So, like I said, you're realizing you're about, so you said you did that in 2 months. How long has it been since y'all started?
Yeah, so the business started back in February of last year. It was actually March of last year,
Okay.
and that was
So where are you guys
out in
at now
Colorado.
then?
Yep, in Minnesota now.
Okay. No, but I'm
Yep.
saying like gross income weekly, where you guys at now? Are you already past that 7-figure mark?
No, so the reason I say we did that in 2 months is you actually mentioned it earlier, is that developers, they run out of capacity. So
Okay.
that same thing with supply chain issues, all that sort of stuff cracked down heavy in Colorado, and there's only
Hmm.
one organization that's out there that was still left.
Yeah.
So yeah, we ended up bouncing from Colorado, and we're 2 months in, 2.5 months in now, in Minnesota, and that's what we've built from scratch.
Beautiful. Beautiful. No, that makes a ton of sense. Are you guys, I mean, you guys are very early in Minnesota, but are you guys already looking at, because of your history from Colorado, are you looking at other products or other kind of fallbacks to sell on? Or are you
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
focused on shared solar?
Yeah, so it's strictly on shared solar, but the focus is on getting more contracts. In the last 2 months, I've actually gotten 6 different contracts signed.
Nice.
So that's been a massive focus. I mean, every single day there's a good hour that goes into it, that I have blocked off on my calendar. No matter what, get as many contracts in this time. So we have the contracts in place, and I mean, that's, as a business owner, find the bottleneck, fix it.
Hmm.
That's kind of my main focus right away, especially when we got here, is fix that bottleneck as fast as humanly possible.
Absolutely. And so another common one for a sales org is going to be the recruiting piece. So going back into that, what is y'all's recruiting strategy right now? Are you taking your time on hires? What is your onboarding process, your training process look like there?
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to actual recruiting, we've done two actual methods of it, at least two platforms for it. So we've used Facebook, and then we've also used Indeed.
Okay.
Those two are super good. Indeed gets a little more quality. Facebook gets a lot more volume. You have to do a lot more sifting through it though, and with both of those, we've actually had a lot more success of recruiting from within. So bringing guys on, showing them the ropes, seeing the resources that they have, the support that they get, show them the culture that we have, and then having them go out and bring in new reps for us. So
Hmm.
that's been the number one, and that's gotten us more reps than anything else, is recruiting within. So the actual training process that we have set up, we have a set days that we go out with them immediately. So you have to do 3 days back to back to back with us.
Right.
Um,
Right.
that's that's a given. No matter what, you have to set up those 3 days in a row, with
Hmm.
two more ready to go for you to knock after. And that's been one of the best things for us to jumpstart, is making sure that they're getting comfortable at the door with a trainer, of somebody
Hmm.
that's able to be with them. You see how we do it, just be a sponge. Then you get to do 50-50. You knock, I knock, you knock, I knock, go back and forth with it.
Yep.
And they kind of do like a 75-25, where you knock three, I knock one. And that has been a really good jump start immediately. And then we do 1 day a week, if not more, if they need it, 1 day a week for about 3 weeks, that we'll touch base with them,
Mm.
and go out to the field with them, and then also go through the recordings.
That makes a ton of sense. So one of the things that I would challenge you to do, and you may already be doing this, just to let me know, but I would challenge you to track all of your candidates coming in, and the first 5 sales that they make, in terms of where the recruiting source. And I think what you'll find, and this is typically, what we found in the past doing a high volume of recruiting, is that Indeed gives you more volume in terms of your hires, but Facebook is actually going to give you better hires. And I know that sounds crazy right now, because when you look at your leads, Facebook may be giving you more per dollar, and Indeed less per dollar, because Indeed is expensive now, because they realize that they're the only game in town now. You know what I'm saying, in terms of recruiting websites. But I think the reason that is because Facebook gives them a preview into your company. They're actually able to go in and see what you guys are all about, depending on where you're recruiting from. And so it then makes it very important, where you can narrate that story of them coming in, seeing what your company looks like. So that's where, the success checks come up. That's where the field stories, and what I mean, the company events are being posted on the company Facebook page. And so as you do more and more of that, you'll be able to dictate the quality of the recruits that you have coming in. And so that's one of the best things we did. We tracked the first 5 sales after they were hired, And that's what we would see. And then when you get the internal referrals, we would see that. And then when I say internal referrals, I mean your salespeople referring their friends into the company. Those people would be 5 times more productive than someone that was hired from ads. And we only knew that, though, because we were tracking the data after they got hired. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely something to track.
For sure. So what are you guys doing in terms of culture? This is the fun part of the business. This is when you get to like have a good time with the guys, take them out, you know what I mean? Or maybe even y'all do more than that, you know what I mean? I just got introduced to Apex and masterminds and development 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So at the height of my business, I wasn't even able to put a lot of that stuff together. It was all around sales training, product training, and then showing the guys a good time. Right. So now you have something at your disposal that I would have loved to have 10 years ago, which is the development piece, the mindset piece, all the things that we learn in groups like Apex, and we can actually bring them into our company. So what does, I guess, your culture strategy look like right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the culture breaks down to, I mean, those first 3 days of training is also like a second interview. And what we're doing in the first day is, we're selling at the doors, but as soon as we turn around, we're making sure that this is a good person that's going to be in the organization. Like, are they fitting the core values? Are we, like, when you're actually getting to know them, like, what's their day-to-day looking like? We can kind of figure out what that love language is, I guess you could say, on how to actually be building that person up. And going through that, I mean, we have like our number one core value is self-improvement. So with that, we have a full list of books that they have the option to get as soon as they go through them and read them. I mean, we're reimbursing on the book side of it. We bring the guys out to dinner after they have, it's generally 2,000 a week. Bring them out to dinner, and then we do full like custom shoes for the team. So they all have, so they all get like the company logos. They get to pick what shoe that they prefer. It's just the company colors that's going to be on the shoes, just as kind of like you're part of the group. You had your big week. Here now you're part of the crew, part of the ship. So that's, I mean, it's been a kind of something that we're evolving with, because it's really different for each person on how they want to have you show appreciation for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100% it does. I don't know if you've ever read the book Giftology by John Ruin.
No, I haven't.
Give that book a shot, because it really did. We implemented it probably, I want to say, in 17. And so what we did is, when they were applying for the position and they eventually got hired, when they got hired, they would have to fill out this onboarding form. And it wouldn't be like name, email, phone number. We already got all that stuff, right? It would be like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite brand? If you had $1,000, what would you, and you couldn't spend it on bills or anything like that. You had to spend it on yourself. What would you buy? And what's your favorite kind of food? And so we would catalog all this information, and then we'd set up a schedule. And the schedule would be based on days with the company. It wouldn't be based on birthdays or anniversaries or anything cheesy like that. We do all that stuff, don't get me wrong, but that's, $5 cupcakes from HEB or whatever. Well, Kroger in y'all's case, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we got Texas, right? And so that would be the easy stuff. But then we would have days set up that 7 days in, they would get, a wristband from the company, a mission wristband from the company, right? And then 15 days in, they may get an extra polo. And then, when they hit their first G Club, they may get a G Club pin to put on their lanyard, whatever the case is. So there would be all these little things that we did throughout to show appreciation. But then, when they were there for 90 days, then maybe they got a $100 gift card to their favorite restaurant. These little things, like you said, to show not just appreciation, but customized appreciation, and that all came from that book, Giftology by John Ruin, which is a fantastic book. Recommended to everybody.
Yeah. The cool thing is too, is that the other guys see, like with your ideas of the wristbands, the pins, we do the custom shoes, like other guys see that aren't quite there, right? That's recognition every time that the team is seeing them, because they have those, I don't want to call them trinkets, but at the same time, it's almost like a badge of honor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So they have that badge of honor that says like, hey, I've hit that. Like I've been in the trenches. So it gives that recognition every single time they wear it. So that's a super cool aspect for it.
We never executed on it, but I always wanted to do different color shirts for different levels of business, you know. So if you had done 50 grand in commissions, you got, you know, like a, I don't know, a blue shirt. Well, we were AT&T, so we all have blue shirts, but you got like a black shirt, you know what I mean? And then if you'd done 100 grand in business, you got like a silver shirt or something like that. But it was all logoed out, so you could wear it out to the field. And
Yep.
even in the field, they had that recognition. So that's very similar to what you guys are doing with the shoes. Can you do the retro, like the Air Max retros with that?
That's a good question. I haven't had anybody ask on it. I'm sure you can. Nike
Yeah.
and Adidas, they all have where you can do full custom shoes. So
Okay, so you really do. You don't have like a link or whatever set up. You're like, what shoes do you want? And
pick your
we'll
shoe. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Very
Everybody's
cool.
got different taste. I don't need to have them wearing the same blazers that I end up rocking. I mean, it's whatever shoe that you'd like.
Okay, there's a good question. And so now in this age where, you know, all of us entrepreneurs are wearing caps and hoodies and t-shirts, the black t-shirt and the dark jeans uniform, entrepreneur uniform, right? How are you handling the dress code like in the office when the guys meet up? How are you handling that?
Yeah, I mean, we have full company gear, and I mean, as you notice at especially at those entrepreneur meetups, it is a very uniform that everybody has. I don't fit that dress code. I mean, this is a company sweatshirt that we have, bright and blue.
Yeah.
I rock these pretty much everywhere. So yeah, I don't so much have a dress code, but we all
Mhm.
have a uniform that we wear. I mean, so when you're out in the field, you're wearing
Yeah.
our shirt. If you're meeting up, everybody's got either one of these sweatshirts on or they
Yeah.
have the polos on. So
Yeah. So when we first started, Sidcore, I don't know if you ever heard of Sidcore before, but they were the game in town, right? They were the biggest door-to-door sales company for AT&T, and they had a kind of a systemized approach where if you were a manager, you had to at minimum have a blazer, and if you were a company owner, you had a tie. And so everybody wore like suit and ties in the office because they all wanted to be company owners, and that was the whole culture. Was, you know, we're professionals in the office, and then when we go out to the field, we change to our polo for the field or whatever. And so a few guys try to bring that to our company, and you know, we were more relaxed, you know, in that sense. But I've seen it work both ways, you know, like Jose Lopez, one of our Apex brothers, he's up in Chicago and he's crushing it right now, doing really well with rooftop solar. And he maintains that professional dress code in the office. All his guys are wearing suits and everything. So I've seen both sides of it work really well.
yeah, yeah, I haven't implemented any sort of dress code. It just so happens. I mean, in my eyes, when you wear our logo and when it's a company that you care about, when it represents something a little bit bigger than yourself,
Mhm.
you're happy to put that stuff on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we haven't even had to ask anybody like, "Hey, make sure you're wearing logoed stuff when you come in," like anything like
Right.
that. I mean, it just
Well, it
happens
makes
automatically.
sense. It's easier to make a sale when you look official. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That makes a ton of sense too. We unfortunately had to wear AT&T stuff. We could never wear Argenta stuff out in the field because that was counterproductive to what we were selling. So that makes a ton of sense. All right, brother. Last question, and I'm sure you know you you're probably one of the only guests that knows it's coming. But legacy, what does it mean to you, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
yeah, yeah. I would say it's tough for me to say that legacy is gonna be left behind. I listen to a lot of Alex Hermosi, if you're familiar with him,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
his
yeah.
whole
We're all
deal
going to be
is
dust. You know that?
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be dust in 3 generations. Nobody's gonna remember your name. And I'm kind of a firm believer in that it's gonna be tough to make a big enough impact in order to leave behind something that's gonna last more than 3 generations. So I mean, my whole goal with it is just do as much good as humanly possible in the meantime. And as long as it sticks, it sticks. But I mean, you can only do as much as you can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the count in, you know, I 100% agree with what you say because it's like the 1% of the 1% of the 1% that actually go down in the history books. You know,
Yeah.
Washington, Franklin, you know, Musk will be one of those. Hermosi, we'll see, right? In 3 generations, he could easily be gone, and he's 100% right in that. But they do exist. You know what I'm saying? So there's an argument to be made that like, hey, what could my history book moment be? You know, I just interviewed a guy that got taken. He was the CEO of Seco Petroleum, right? He got
Mhm.
taken hostage for 5 years, in Venezuela. So it became this like diplomatic bidding war, or like negotiation. You trade our prisoners for your prisoners, this whole thing, right? And he got stuck there for 5 years. And it's like he probably thought his legacy was going to be the CEO of oil and gas. You know what I'm saying? But now his legacy is going to be overcoming that, because he came back about a year ago, and now he's using it as a story to inspire and to overcome and to coach other people to do the same. He's writing a book, that whole deal. So now that's going to be his legacy, And so there's also that. It's like we're in a digital age now, so it won't become dust. It'll be archived forever should anybody want to draw it up. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I go back and forth, and now I feel like we're not even on the podcast anymore. We're just having a conversation about this like we would at an Apex event, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that, I mean, if it ends up being that, I mean, it's gone 3 generations, don't remember it. It still means that what's important to you only get to set. And I would say what's important to me and what I would like to at least be remembered by, if it is only for those 3 generations, is that, I mean, I gave all that I could. So, I mean, even hopping on meetings with anybody in Apex, outside of Apex, I mean, it's constant. I just gave somebody a login to my CRM today so they could go see all of the automations, all the funnels that we've built out, everything. So I would just like to, I mean, learn as many secrets as humanly possible and just hand it out. That's 100% the goal.
I love it. 100%. And I can tell you that's the reason that no matter what my P&L says, or no matter what's going on in life, like 100% what you just said, because you've made a positive impact and you have given it away, and so that other people can benefit from it. And if you have that, it typically carries you right through those down times.
1,000%.
Carries you right through those tough times in your life, or life-changing moments, like my buddy that was in a Venezuelan prison for 5 years. That's just crap. I'm still like kind of like tripping out over that in that conversation, but that'll come out in the next couple of weeks or so, that podcast. So, all right, brother, I appreciate you so much for coming on. I think it's important that every level of success be documented, every level of success be shared, right? Because there's someone that's at 1,000 a week right now and they're about to give up. And hopefully they listen to this podcast and they listen to Adam say, hey, audit your sales process, audit your people coming in, make these changes, do what I did from 0 to 15, or just focus on one sales medium, and then you can get to that 15K a week. So appreciate you coming on the show, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
All right, let's get building.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. We sure do appreciate it. As always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you consume podcasts. Don't forget to join our Facebook group, Building Great Sales Teams, so you can get daily tips on how to get your sales team built brick by brick. We'll see you there.